The house was old enough to wear its secrets like scars. I knew it the moment I stepped inside. It was the kind of place where shadows felt thick, almost tangible. My cousin and her husband seemed blissfully unaware, having just bought the place with their baby girl, Ella. The house had a milkman door, a detail that felt like it was clinging to a time long gone, and a cellar that even daylight couldn't tame. 2 nights ago, I babysat Ella there for the first time, and it's an experience I won't shake anytime soon. The basement was low ceiling, almost pressing down on me. It had 2 rooms, a cramped kitchen and a playroom, divided by an open archway. Ella spent her days in the playroom, where her toys and a small TV kept her entertained. But the room also held something else, a bathroom and the cellar door, nestled into the corner like it was hiding. I ignored it at first. I didn't want to seem like the kind of adult that spooks easily. But things started to feel strange, especially when I left Ella in her playpen to grab a snack. The moment I turned on the faucet, I heard faint voices mingling with the sound of running water. They were soft, almost too soft, like someone was trying to keep a secret. I figured Ella had somehow turned the TV on, but when I cut the water, only her voice carried through the silence. She was talking, but there was an odd tone to it, like she was telling a story to someone rather than babbling to herself. I called out, letting her know I'd be right back. As I walked into the playroom, she murmured, "Be quiet." I paused, unsure of what I'd heard. The TV was off, and she sat in her playpen, just playing with her toys, like nothing was wrong. I asked her who she'd been talking to, but she looked down, avoiding my gaze. When I pressed the bit, she giggled and said a word I thought was gibberish at first. They tin. It took a second for my mind to rearrange the syllables Satan. It sounded like Satan. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. But when I asked her who Thay Tin was, she just pointed to the cellar door. A chill traced its way up my spine as I turned to look. The door seemed darker than before, its edges shadowed as if it was pulling in the light around it. I asked Ella if someone was down there, and she nodded, a simple, terrifying confirmation. When I asked if he talked to her, she nodded again. I pushed, asking what he said, but she just shrugged, like it wasn't worth repeating. I thought maybe she was imagining things, as kids do. But then I asked if she'd seen him, and she said yes, he looked dark. That's all she could say. I grabbed some crayons and paper, hoping to get her to draw whatever this was, half expecting stick figures or scribbles. But her hand moved with a kind of purpose, starting with black and then red, marking heavy shapes that seemed wrong in a child's drawing. My heart raced as I watched her. I couldn't make sense of what she'd drawn, but the colors and the shapes didn't sit right with me. I asked what it was, and she just smiled and said, "It's Thay Tin. Go look." The cellar door seemed to loom larger, daring me to open it. I stayed where I was, huddled on the floor next to her, every instinct telling me not to go near it. When her parents finally came home, I felt a relief that washed over me like air after holding my breath too long. I waited until Ella was out of earshot and then showed the drawing to my cousin. I didn't expect much. After all, kids have wild imaginations. But the moment she saw the picture, she screamed, clutching the paper as though it had burned her. Her husband came running, holding her as she sobbed, repeating over and over, "It's from my dream. It's the thing from my dream." She told me, shaking, that during their first week in the house, she'd fallen asleep in that very room. She had a nightmare so vivid, it felt real. Ella was in her playpen, and something dark and twisted loomed over her, watching, just watching. When she woke up, alone on the couch, the cellar door had been open. She hadn't gone near it since. Now, hearing that Ella called it Thay Tin and seeing the creature on paper, they were talking about moving, researching the house history, searching for any clue that could explain what they'd seen and heard. They haven't found anything yet, but I can't help wondering. Sometimes houses have memories, stains from lives that came before. And whatever Thay Tin is, Ella isn't afraid of him. To her, he's just a friend in the dark.